First off, apologies for the delay in the video, and also apologies for the audio quality, not having any video, etc. I just moved, so I don't have any of my equipment. All I have is a laptop and a microphone, so I'm trying to make do with whatever I have, but that's not why we're here. We are here because we just got the information today for the new dimension and the second awakening monster pre-notice. So I did apologize for being a little bit late in the video. However, if we think about it, I did also predict this a week ago. The exact same thing. I predicted that we're going to get a new dimension and we're going to get 2 new second awakened monsters. So we get a new dimension, and we just got the announcement today. So I was really a week early, if you think about it, really a week early. So first off, I want to show you guys, this is kind of doing its own thing, trying to, these banners. I want to show you guys this. Can you see my cursor? Yeah, you can. No, I don't want to see that. I want to see this. So I want to show you guys this little area here, which you don't see it in the next page, but I want you guys to kind of take a look at that. Keep switching, man. I want you guys to take a look at that and kind of understand that when we think about what's the most likely new second awakening monsters. So we have here, this is a sword, and this is what looks like some kind of spear type thing. And of course, the sword can only be, it can't, I mean, it can be other things aside from the Vagabond, but we all know this is going to be the Vagabond, right? Like, we all know that this is definitely going to be, and we mentioned this before, is number one, that Comtuous initially, when they started doing 2A monsters, they wanted to do the nostalgic monsters that people, that were the original monsters in the game that people used to use back in the day, and they wanted to give them a fresh coat of paint, and they wanted them to be exciting and new again, like these things that we experienced in the very beginning of, and many of us, not all of us, because some people didn't experience the very beginning of Summoner's War, but this is what they want to do for these Second Awakening units. So I am 99% positive that that is the Vagabond Sword. I'm also pretty positive that that is the Imp Champion Spear. I know some people think that it's going to be, I've heard some crazy stories, like, some people think it's, I mean, some of them are some more realistic, but like, for example, some people think it's going to be the Charger Sharks. I don't think this is going to be the Charger Sharks. Again, going back to what I said a little bit ago is look at the Second Awakening dimension. Look at the new dimension we're getting. It's not like an underwater thing. It's not like a Charger Shark thing. So it doesn't make a lot of sense that it would be the Charger Sharks. I also heard that it's for Epicure Priests, but some of the Epicure Priests are 4 stars also. They were some original units, but some of them are 4 stars. They haven't been doing any 4-star Second Awakening monsters at all. That would be completely different. That would be a complete change of direction for them. That's not what they're looking to do. They're just looking to do some 2- and 3-star monsters. Not all of them are farmable, which we learned from the Martial Cats and then also the Werewolves, but they're looking to do easily accessible units. A lot of people don't have things like Iona, so it's like, why do a Second Awakening for things like that anyway? But they're just trying to make the OG units that are not very strong anymore strong and meta and useful, right? So that leads us to the conclusion that we are most likely to see the Vagabonds and the Imps, possibly the Imp Champions, but most likely the Vagabonds and Imps from this new dimension and these 2 new Second Awakenings, both because they make sense visually with the theme and also with the weapons and Comtuous core concept of what units they wanted to do next. So let's go take a look real quick. I say real quick, I already actually recorded this part, but for whatever reason, the file didn't work, so we're going to do it again. I just want to go through and I want to see what the skills are and kind of discuss where I think they may change some of these things, which ones to look out for. So Darien, the first one, I think most people are familiar with Darien at this point. He has a damage mitigation for the team as his passive. People are using him in very, very early game Giants, and then also they were using him in R5 as well. More so in R5. Some people were using him in Giants, but that's besides the point. The point is he's got his Knighthood passive. I think that we could see something similar to the Water Rune Blacksmith, where over time, the more his allies are attacked, the more their resistance goes up, or the more his attack power goes up. One of the things that I want to mention with these Imps and also the Vagabonds is to pay attention to their base stats. The Bruiser type units get the most value since the base HP, the base attack, the base defense all goes up. The Bruiser type units get the most value from that overall. So they become the strongest of anything. The support units don't necessarily need a ton of attack power. There are some instances where they do, like for example with the fairies or like Annabelle and some of the occult girls. And then for the straight damage dealer, the straight YOLO nuke damage dealers, like for example Lucian, he doesn't really need too much HP and defense, just because you're trying to one-shot things. So if you last a few rounds, then that comes into play. But if you can just one-shot blast something, then it is basically irrelevant to have a lot of HP and defense on it. So the bruisers get the most value out of Second Awakenings just in general. Also, the base speed, keep in mind, the base speed doesn't change. But keep in mind that if a unit gets some kind of strip and then stun, or strip and then attack age decrease skill, that could be very, very strong on Swift. So the imps actually have very high base speed. So we'll discuss that in a second. But I think that this is probably going to get a small change, since they're in the strongest one of all of them anyway, or the most used, most widely accepted unit of all of them anyway. So I think he'll get most likely a small change that either increases the resistance or increases his stats or something similar to that with his passive, right? It'd be cool if he has like extra attack over time, and then like if your team lasts for like gets attacked 20 times, he just comes in and like one-shots something. Would be cool to have something like that. We have Kyan, who has an AoE provoke and then a defense buff, which is actually pretty cool. He's actually a decently usable, or he was a decently usable unit back in the day, just to play around and have fun with in Guild Wars and things like that. He's got a completely irrelevant dungeon leader skill, just like the Beast Monks, where they're bruisers that have dungeon leader skills, which is mostly pointless. But this would be cool to see. I think we may possibly see something like a built-in revenge, or a shield, or a regen, or an attack power buff, or something like that. With this Cry of Challenge, is just, we're probably going to see something built in to improve this, or maybe even another whole turn of provokes. That would be interesting to have an AoE 2-turn. I mean, he would be like a light paladin, but he'd be super strong, especially with multiple sets of revenge on him. So then we have the Jubel, which is an interesting unit. He is kind of similar to Susano. I wonder if they might do something like the passives, like some kind of integration similar to the passives of Susano, or the passives of like the Fire Striker or something like that, where he cleanses. I just feel more like that's going to be the situation here. He does potentially have a lot of access to this provoke. It's only a single target provoke here, but that could be something to definitely take into consideration. He has the highest base speed of all of the Vagabonds. He's got 113 base speed. Everyone else is under 100. So that's also something to take into consideration. I don't see him having a strip or really needing Swift for any reason, but just keep that in mind. These guys are going to be so cool looking after their Second Awakened. So this guy, I think, will probably still be a dud, to be honest. Royd. It'd be cool to see him be even stronger, because the game gives you this unit at the very beginning. But he's got a defense break. All of them have defense break second skills. Some of them have provoke second skills. Some of them have attack power break second skills. This third skill is okay for giants. It's okay for TOA bosses. Attacks the enemy lightning fast slash. Attack bar drops to 0 and irresistible provoke. This could... Watch, they make him like a budget Oliver. He just keeps cycling turns, increasing his attack gauge. It's possible. I think they may go that direction with it, but I don't know if it's going to be anywhere near as... I don't think it's going to be anywhere near as strong as Oliver. I think it could be like a fun gimmick unit, but ultimately I don't know. This guy will... I just get a feeling that this guy's not going to be anything worth writing home about. I could be wrong, but I also know that the same thing happened with the High Elementals, is that they weren't anything crazy after... the Wind one wasn't anything crazy after it was Second Awakened. So they like had some ideas for it. In theory, it was kind of... It definitely got better, don't get me wrong, but it just didn't become meta in any way. This one has, of course, it has the defense break over here, and then it has the provoke over here, but it has a strong will passive. When your HP is lower than 30%, the damage you received is reduced by 50%. So I think we're just going to see... I mean, it's kind of obvious that we're just going to see improvements to the passive on some of these units that have passives. How strong can we get? If we think about like the things that they've done with the Susano and also with Douglas, Will they do something similar with this? Will they do like a cleanse? Will they do attack gauge increase or something? Also, with attack gauge increase on this guy, is it really going to be... I don't know that they necessarily will do that, but he could at the very least be an interesting front row tank for R5. That's at the very least what I think could come out of Allen, or like Rift Beast stuff in general. I don't know. It really depends on how strong they do this. I wish I'd give you guys better answers or more answers or whatever, but I don't know. I don't know there. So let's go over the imps now. So one of the things to mention with the imps, I like how you guys are like, oh, Bagel's got the answers, and I say, I don't know. I don't know. So a lot of these imps have two different, the skill ones, I believe, are all increase their speed, which their speed is already good. They have very high base speed. They're squishy, but they have very high base speed. 115, 111, 113. This guy's super nostalgia for early game players in Summoner's War at the very, very, very beginning. 112, 114. So every single one of these is strong. So keep that in mind when you're thinking about what kind of buffs they get. If they get a buff that could make them very viable on Swift, then it could be very viable to have them on Swift. I feel like that's just stating the obvious. Anyway, let's continue. They are squishy units, though. So Second Awakenings for them just going to make them better attack power, and then going to make them have more survivability than just super squishy. Because one of the things is people are already using this for RTA in cleave teams every so often. But if he gets tapped by something, he dies. He's a natural 2-star unit. So he's just so squishy. But also these units are secret dungeons. So that's really cool. Again, it could be something else. It could not be the imps, but if it is, these units are secret dungeons, which is fantastic. Yeah, like I said, they have an attack speed buff. I think all of them have the same thing. Usually they have the same first skill, but sometimes they don't have the same first skill for some of these units. Like, for example, the paladins don't all have the same first skill. So just something to keep in mind. This guy actually has, so the second skill is a 50% critical rate bonus, is also for this wind one and also for the dark one. They all have the critical rate bonus. These two have CC, single target CC. This is a freeze, and then this is a stun, if I recall correctly. So freeze and stun. This one, he's got all this continuous damage. This could be an interesting continuous damage speed team for dungeons after he gets Second Awakened. I don't think that they're necessarily going to change it drastically. I say this now, watch they do the Imp Champions, and they're like, I mean, if they do the Imp Champions, this is even more exciting, right? But I think that it's most likely that they're going to do just the regular Imps. So we'll see if they take more of a PvP or PvE approach with this, because I think that they really need to, like, if they're going to Second Awaken these guys, if this is indeed the new 2As, then I think that they need to either focus on PvE or PvP and try to kind of cater them towards a certain area. So we've got this extra crit rate. But I mean, this is good for people that don't have very high crit rate. But aside from just doing damage, it doesn't really do anything else. It's not like it does a defense break and then damage. It's not like it ignores defense. The light one ignores defense, which is why he's used. But aside from that, we've got this. This is actually kind of interesting. It's got a continuous damage. It's got a weakened defense, and it's got a stun. It's got a triple hit here, which is actually pretty cool. It's only, I mean, like, here's the thing, though. With continuous damage, weakened defense, and stun, continuous damage you use for bosses. Weakened defense you could use for bosses, or you could use for PvP. And then stun is not really for bosses. Stun is for PvP. So it's kind of like one direction and another. So I think that they need, or rather I know that they need to either decide if this is for PvP or PvE. These guys could be, just wind up being PvP units that just become stronger for dungeons. But you never know. This could be things that could make the dungeons that we have much faster and much more consistent. Also, think about it this way. These guys could be very, very good eventually for the new Punisher's Crypt B12 and Steel Fortress B12 dungeons, which they kind of either already teased or typoed. And they didn't really come out and say, like, no, that was a typo, we're fixing it. Because if we think about this, there are already multiple sources that, like myself and others, they came out and said, oh, look at this. This says Punisher's Crypt B12, Steel Fortress B12. If it was a mistake, Comptuos would have done a little thing, like a little notice, like, oh, by the way, this is a typo. We accidentally meant to say B10 of Punisher Script Steel Fortress. It'll be fixed in the next update. They did not say that. So that leads me to believe that that is, I mean, just extra confirmation of what I already believed, and what most of us already believed, that we're getting PC 12 and Steel Fortress 12 dungeons coming up in the 8th year anniversary updates. So it looks like it's probably, what I would guess is that these units are going to be very good for Steel Fortress and Punisher Script going forward. So we may see strips and block beneficial effects on some of them, like for example, maybe him, maybe this one and this one, we see some block beneficial effects. Maybe we see some slows over here and we see some more continuous damage or something like that, right? I think that they could very well be units that are more catered to the new Steel Fortress and Punisher Script dungeons. That's just my logic behind it based on like the other things that they're going to be implementing in the game. And then I also think that these could be very viable for the rune farming dungeon in the new dimension. And that leads me to the next point that I probably should mention is, what runes are we going to get from, because we already have the ancient Swift runes. So what runes are we going to get from this? And I think that it's either going to be ancient violent runes, which they already said they weren't going to do, but I don't necessarily believe that they're not going to do it. I just think that they were like, oh, we changed, you know, they might just be, oh, we changed our mind, we're going to do ancient violent runes. I don't know that they will or will not. I guess we'll see. But I think a lot of us already think that they're going to do them eventually. And then potentially like ancient fight runes, which could be very cool as well. So either way, if it's ancient violent, if it's ancient fight, it's going to be very strong. They're also going to have some filler rune sets, because you know they will, because they're not just going to be violent and fight. They're going to be like, oh, you can also get ancient focus from here too, and it's most likely going to get runes and grinds for focus. But yeah. Anyway, that's just some things that I wanted to mention, because you know if we're getting a new dimension, we're going to get a new rune farming thing. And I think that these imps, or if it happens to be the imp champions, or if it happens to be something else, whatever it is, they're going to be probably tuned to and catered to the new dungeons that we're going to get, just so that we have things that make sense together. And it's like, oh, do you need to do these new dungeons? Use it with the new 2-8 units. So anyway, that's it for this one. This is already way too long, but I did want to mention this, and I know I'm already too late in doing the video, but if you think about it, I'm kind of already a week early, because we already predicted this a week before they even said anything about it. But anyway, that's it for this one. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Watch it. It would be hilarious if it's like not even that. It's like, oh no, they're Garudas, but the Garudas are now Garuda warriors, and that's why they have spears. And it's like, oh, okay. That makes a lot of sense. So anyway, that's it for this one. See you as always in the next one.